Where you going? Welcome back to Larry King Live. 4 candidates for president are on the ballot in each state, but only 3 got invited to the ball last night. Early this year, the debate commission ruled participants would have to have a, quote, realistic chance, end quote, of winning the general election, which seems to rule Ross Perot in and Andre Marrou out. Marrou is the Libertarian candidate. He says abolish the IRS, stop hiring federal workers, cease foreign aid, and limit congressional terms. Ross Perot has made 92 a tough year for the party that wants to be the main alternative to Republicans and Democrats. But still, Andre Marrou joins us here in Washington. Why weren't you in the debates?
Well, no, that's a good question. We met all of the debate commission's objective criteria.
Except chance to win, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I have just as much a chance to win as Ross Perot. He's been, before the debate last night, he was at 7 to 10% in polls. We're at about 6%. We're running neck and neck. I was on the ballot in all 50 states probably a week and a half before Ross Perot was. We have about 1,000 candidates down ticket from me and Nancy Lord, my running mate, and he has none, or he has few, if any. We have party organizations in all 50 states. He doesn't. I have more political experience and more electoral success than Ross Perot, Jesse Jackson, and Pat Buchanan put together. This is my 5th campaign, the 2nd one nationally. As the VP nominee 4 years ago, I campaigned in all 50 states. The only other person to do that was Richard Nixon. So the only thing I don't have is Ross Perot's money. That's the only thing I don't have.
You think his money has bought himself into that debate?
That's the only assumption I can make. Either that or these people are anti-woman, because of the 4 national tickets that are on the ballot in all 50 states, only 1 has a woman on it, and that's my running mate, Dr. Nancy Lord.
What reason did the commission give you when you applied, or did you formally ask to be in the debate?
We did indeed. We submitted, I think it was an 80-page brief, and we found out that the staff of the debate commission did not give that to all members of the commission, at least as I understand it. And so there's some nonsense or chicanery or something going on inside that we don't know anything about. It's a closed club, you see. It's, as far as I can tell, it's
how did Perot got in financially, you think, into this?
It's possible. I don't really know. All I do know is that it looks a lot like the discrimination, the prejudice against blacks in the 40s and 50s.
Shouldn't you be encouraged by Perot showing that there can be a chink in this 2-party system, a broken link, something can break it?
But you see, Ross Perot does not have a party. He hasn't been around 21 years like we have. He hasn't been elected. He's never got a vote that really counted in a November election. This will be my 5th November election. He's never been in one. We are the real people. We're the 3rd people on the ballot in the states, not him.
When you say, Andre, 5 to 6%, I don't see you in any of the polls.
No, they don't put us in. Even CNN doesn't put us in their polls. They should, but they don't.
In what poll do you rate 5 to 6%?
This was CompuServe. We've been tracking at CompuServe at about 6%. Also, a few months ago, we were in Inc. magazine poll at whatever it was, 5% or something like that.
What do you think you're going to get, logically?
If they put us in the polls, so that people know that there is another choice, then in my opinion we would get about the same as Ross Perot. We'd get, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10%, something like that. If they don't put us in the polls...
That's a big difference, 5 or 10%.
I know. But if they don't put us in the polls, this is going to squash us, and this may be what they're trying to do, whether it's CNN, USA Today, AP, Gallup, or Harris.
Well, but it wouldn't be a plot, Andre. I mean, you're not exactly a great threat.
Larry, I did not say it was a plot.
What is it?
We are building the next major party, though. We will elect a Libertarian president and Congress. It's just a question of who and when.
All right, the Libertarians seem to have, Andre, one of those things where everybody says yes on about 70% of what you say. Liberals love you in certain areas because you would have no drug laws, right? It's a person's right to use it.
That's right. And that's the way to get rid of
You don't want troops in Europe.
That's right.
Right? But you also don't want income tax. You don't want federal government involved in anything.
Sounds good, Larry. You sound like a libertarian.
How do we function under a libertarian concept? Give me the libertarian utopian government.
There is no utopia. Utopia is not an option. We can make things much better than they are by restoring constitutional government. We cannot create a utopia. If you want paradise, you're going to have to go to heaven or somewhere else, because we cannot create paradise. We can make things much better. By getting rid of too much government. We have too cotton-picking much government. We have too many taxes, too much regulation, too many bureaucrats. We have the highest tax burden in history. 47% of all the money in this country goes to government. 25% to the federal government, 22% to state, county, and local governments. We have the highest regulatory burden in history. We accumulated 100% of the regulations during 210 years or so, and during the 4 years of George Bush, we've accumulated another 27%. I wouldn't have thought it was possible. We have the worst recession in 50 years. Earlier this year, in our 2nd largest city, we had the worst riots anywhere in this country since the Civil War. We have the highest poverty level in 30 years. It just goes on and on and on, and what has caused it is too much government. When you tax someplace, let's say it's in Iowa someplace, and you send the money to Washington, guess what happens? This place, wherever it is, Iowa or whatever, gets poorer and Washington gets richer. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, but you can't have the states run the show. I mean, how do you exist?
How do you exist? What do you mean, how do you exist?
Right, why should a person in New York get a better education than a person in Mississippi?
Why should, I don't follow your question.
Why?
What has that got to do with what I'm saying?
Well, but you would have, if New York has more money and doesn't share with Mississippi, the New Yorker would get a better education.
Okay, Larry, what you just said is a prime tenet of Marxism, and that is that everybody must be...
Well, we're all Americans. We should be entitled to health care, education, some kind of concepts that are the same, right?
Larry, that's not in the Constitution. That's not in the Constitution, because those are not rights. Those are privileges. A right has to do with you alone.
Education's a privilege?
Education is a privilege. That is not in the Constitution.
Children don't have the right to an education in America.
Children can and always will be educated by their children, but it's wrong to tax these people to support these people, whether it's education or whatever. This is not right. This is
therefore,
not
the have-mores have more. They get better health, they get better education, they just get better by having more.
No. We cut taxes. If we get rid of the income tax, the average American will have $300 to $500 a month more to spend. Part of that will be spent on education. Part will be spent on charity, both of which, private charity and private education, do a much better job at much lower cost than the government ever has done or ever will do.
The Libertarian Party was opposed to civil rights laws, is that correct? Haven't they worked?
Civil rights laws, can you define a civil rights law?
A restaurant must serve anyone that comes in.
This is not right. I do not have a right to come in here to CNN and demand to be on your show. And if I own a restaurant, you do not have a right to come in and demand that I serve you food. I can say I don't want to serve you because you wear black rimmed glasses.
That kind of thinking kept segregation going in America for 200 years.
No. It was the Democrats and Republicans who enacted the laws that established slavery, that established the laws against blacks, against women, against Jews, against Irish, against Italian, and so forth and so on. Are you aware that right now in the University of California system there is a quota system for Asian Americans in the University of California system? This was put into effect by Democrats and Republicans, not libertarians. This sort of discrimination is anathema to libertarians. As I've already mentioned, of the 4 tickets in this, the 4 major tickets, only 1 has a woman on it. That should show that we're not discriminatory. The man who placed second in the nomination for president in my party last year is a black man.
That's right. Are you running candidates for Congress? And
yes, indeed. We're running I think about 200 candidates for Congress.
Everyone else gets this break, so you might as well. Is there an 800 number for people who want information?
It is indeed. 1-800-272-1776. They can get more information by calling 1-800-272-1776. We'll
be back with your calls for Andre Marrou, the Libertarian Party candidate for president. Don't go away.
They keep saying, well, we're going to shoot. What am I going to do? And I'm trying to find out what is happening.
Go to your phone calls for Andre Marrou, Pikeville, Kentucky. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Marrou.
Yes.
Shouldn't your party, and for that matter, the New Alliance Party, join up with the major parties as a faction so that you can round out the parties? So that, say, like the Republican Party wouldn't be so right-wing.
Or go into one of the parties and change the party.
I don't think it's going to work that way. What I see is that asking me to join the Republican Party or the Democrat Party is almost as bad, and don't misunderstand me, almost as bad as asking a Jew to join the Nazi Party. In my opinion, the 2 major parties cannot be reformed. Remember, I lived with them, so to speak, for 2 years in the Alaska legislature. Right? No, I was not a Republican. I was a Libertarian. But I was in the Republican caucus, that is to say I was in the Republican minority, because there was no other place for me to be unless I wanted to be totally alone. So I don't think it will work. Every time a Libertarian has done that, has gone back to being a Republican or a Democrat, he or she has been cut off at the knees. They just don't want us to succeed.
Do you really think there's little difference between Clinton and Bush?
Yeah, Clinton is a left-wing socialist. Bush is a right-wing socialist. Remember, 24 years ago, George Wallace said there's not a dime's worth of difference between them. Today, there's not a nickel's worth of difference, and that's even allowing for inflation.
Is Perot a difference? He's certainly calling for austerity.
Perot is a fascist socialist. This man wants to be dictator. You know what they call him in Europe? Several months ago, the largest newspaper in Portugal started calling Perot the American Mussolini.
Based on what?
That's exactly what it is. Based upon the fact that the way the man operates, he wants to be dictator. You can do that in business, and he's accustomed to doing it. But business and politics are 2 different ball games.
Atlanta, Texas, for Andre Marrou. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Marrou.